thinking about walking again. In fact, let's walk together, you and I. Let's do this again, shall we? I'm here in this field in Cheshire. Might be a little bit of wind noise because I'm at the top of what in Cheshire passes for a hill, which is like a slightly raised section. And there's a bypass over there behind that hedgerow down the dip. So you occasionally get the traffic sound, but I don't think it'll be too bad. Anyway, I'm walking through this field and I'm thinking about walking again, partly because I'm on this little path, which is a cow path. It's not a human path, it's a path made by the cows as they come through this field. And I'm thinking about paths again, and we'll have to move on to different aspects of walking, you know, what the foot does, what the balance does, what the breathing does, all those other kinds of bits at some point. But right now I'm still thinking about paths, and particularly I'm thinking about paths in relation to ways of getting somewhere and ways of doing something, because there's something about that, isn't there? I mean, I'm just going to face you that way, excuse me. We do use paths as metaphors again, but for processes. In fact, the word process, I'm pretty sure, comes from a word meaning to move or to proceed. And procedure is a method, isn't it? A way of doing something. And proceed is again, a movement through space, a walk, and indeed way. The way, you know, is both a method and a movement. I guess I'm thinking about something I heard on the radio about, God, what famous old poem, the whale ways and the swan ways. The whale ways of the ocean and the swan ways of the rivers. But these are ways of getting places. They're not exactly methods. It's almost as if geographical features have become methods, or have come to symbolise or stand in for methods. And proceeding through this geographical feature by putting one leg in front of the other, going through the steps. You know, the elevator to sobriety is broken, take the steps, that kind of thing. By going through these various steps, you get from one geographical location to the other. And that's the way. I am the way. Isn't that, did Jesus say that? Did Jesus say I am the way? Probably. Because that's a kind of similar thing, isn't it? You follow in the foot. I mean, just certainly in religious traditions, I think I'm right in saying, there are lots of traditions where the kind of metaphorical understanding of a way, a method, a path, and the literal understanding of a path, a literal understanding of putting one foot in front of the other, where those two understandings, the metaphor and the reality, are very closely intertwined, aren't they? You know, following in the footsteps of Jesus is almost literal. Not quite, but almost. And certainly is almost made literal, particularly with the Stations of the Cross ritual, you know, which is, you know, the movement of Jesus through his, you know, you enact the movement through symbolically. And people who go to Jerusalem do that, don't they? They move through the Stations of the Cross there, the sites that lead to the crucifixion and the burial and all that kind of stuff, which is not just a way of finding something out, or, you know, or experiencing something, or getting closer to a story. It's also physically, as I say, putting one foot in front of the other, and really moving through this. Look, the rabbit over there, look, see him bouncing away there, a little flash of white. So yeah, that's the way, isn't it? And those ways, they're funny, those ways, though, because sometimes they're kind of about destination, aren't they? You know, you are kind of getting somewhere, but you don't get somewhere. But what you get is what you acquire on the journey, isn't it? What you get is what you acquire on this way. It doesn't just lie at the end point waiting for you. You know, like that Conference of the Birds poem thing, which I talked about a while back, and which gives its name to that channel of mine of the same name. You know, that's the story, Persian poem, of a bunch of birds that set out on a walk to find enlightenment or to find some great treasure. And when they get to where they're going, if there's nothing there apart from themselves, and what the message I think you're supposed to take from that is, it's not about the destination, it's about the travelling. Now I think that the way in religious terms is about that too, isn't it? It's not that you find, it's not that God's waiting for you at the end of your journey, it's the process that gets you there. Sometimes that process is, as I say, is literalised in like the Stations of the Cross, or the Via Negativa. I mean, the Via Negativa is the way of the way of nothingness, a way of denial, a way of emptiness, where you keep saying to yourself, no, this isn't God, no, this isn't religion, this isn't spirituality. And every time you think you're finding it, that's a recognition that you're looking at a mirage, and you need to take a step to the left and then jump to the right or whatever it is, and do the God walk again. So it's like you're beating a path through illusion in that case. But again, it's not about that God is at the end of that via negativa. It's about you follow the path, and and you kind of, your knowledge is the path, I think. The way. What else? Yeah, I think I'm right in saying in medieval church architecture and medieval paintings, actually, you have this idea of the way, the process, the procedure. It's got some lovely names attached to it, actually. In some medieval paintings, particularly religious paintings, iconography, there's the artists try to lead your eye through the painting as if it's like a little pilgrimage through the thing. So you start at what's called the status, looks like status, but I think it's pronounced status, which is a particular point that is designed to attract the eye. So your eye goes there first, so it's usually something in the centre of the picture. And it's supposed to end at what's called the scopos, the final resting point for the eye, the thing that the eye eventually goes to, which is some kind of, I don't know, redemptive feature or something, I don't know. But between the status and the scopos, they have what's called the ductus, which is these paths through the painting that they try to construct. So you're struck by one image in the middle of the painting. So if this scene was a painting, there's the scopos there, look, that dog carrying a little baby rabbit, because that would attract your attention, wouldn't you? But of course, what I really want you to look at, because I'm God-minded today or something, is I would say, oh well, I really want you to look at the sky, because that's the enlightenment. So if I was constructing this painting, I would construct a ductus which leads the eye in that direction, maybe like that. I don't know, that's a bad example, but you know what I mean. There'd be a ductus, which is like a Latin word which means kind of flow, passageway, that kind of thing. Ductus comes down in words like aqueduct and ventilation duct, passageway between the beginning and the end. So yeah, that's the kind of way. I think, as I say, I think in church architecture as well as paintings, though, as well as the eye being led through paintings to take you on this narrative journey from beginning to end. So church architecture is like that. Like some of it, when you go into some churches, the first bit you get into is the status, the place where you start from, and you stand. Because I think status means static and means stationary. So you stand at the entrance, and your eye is taken down maybe the aisle or something like that, to the scopos, which I guess would be something like the altar or some other kind of religious iconography at the far end. And then you would actually do the walk. You would actually do the walk, and the walk is significant. It's completely physically engaging with this passageway. I mean, of course, we wouldn't call that knowledge these days, I don't think, most of us. But that's the idea, that you're being led down a path of knowledge or awakening or something, by moving through these different phases, a little journey, a little path, a way between the W of the status and the, I don't know, whatever the Y of the, that doesn't really work, does it? Never mind, anyway. Yeah, so there's that, isn't there? And spiritual exercises do that. Loyola, I think, did a lot of spiritual exercises. It was like founded the Jesuits. And the Jesuits were interesting because they did talk about being in the path of Jesus, following the path of Jesus. So you mimic the actions of your Messiah and become a better person, or become spiritual, or become spiritually, whatever it is. You do actually do that stuff. Constant, what would Jesus do? Not only what would Jesus do, but where would Jesus put his foot? Walking in the path of the Lord. And as I say, Loyola had these spiritual exercises, which are kind of steps. It's almost like a 12-step program, like Alcoholics Anonymous. Where you go through these processes, and each step takes you not to a destination where this treasure is, where the birds can find enlightenment, or where God hangs out. But the steps themselves are the journey. The path that you've made is a path of wisdom, perhaps because it's been beaten by many other people on the same path. Right, what else? Oh yeah, just this this picture thing. Because I've been trying to think of secular examples, because I know I'm being very religious in my language here, and I don't want to just lock into that, because I don't think it's just about that. But I think even in secular experience, we have, you know, like in pictures, there's this idea of the status, the ductus and the scopus. Now I'm thinking about comic books particularly here. Now I don't collect comic books, I know much about them, but I've seen a few, you know, obviously. I can tell the difference between an interesting one and a non-interesting one. And some of the more interesting ones, graphically, are ones that do interesting things with the idea of the status, the ductus, and the scopus. You know, because boring comics, they're just comic strips, aren't they? It's like a little line. Yeah. So each step is measured, each one that follows the other. You can kind of predict where the next one's going to go. But more interesting ones, a lot of the interesting layouts in comic books, do what I think medieval religious iconography painting does. You know, it'll attract your attention to some detail, and of course you're following the story and you're reading the speech bubbles and stuff, but there'll be a visual detail you're looking at, and then it'll lead to something else, and then you kind of notice that you've come to a panel which has taken up half the page. You know, it's almost as if you stepped out into a field and there's a massive vista just opened up, you know, and there's Batman, or there's the Green Lantern, massive towering figure at the side of the page that you kind of haven't noticed because you haven't been led to that panel yet. You know, it's a really nice effect. It takes you in and out of the scene. And you know, and really good artists, I think, good comic book artists do that really well. So as I say, I don't think it's just about guiding religious thought, it's also about guiding any kind of experiential thought. Yeah. This thing about something being at the end, sorry I'm rambling a bit, aren't I? You okay there? We're going to go through some nettles. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll walk in the nettles here, and you go on the path, because that's the kind of guy I am. Here we go. Okay, and the nettles. You okay? Yeah, you're on the path. Go. Ouch. Yeah, we're fine. I got through alright. Anyway, we're back on the salt line here, so we can walk with as much abandon as we like, you and I. Anyway, yeah, the other thing about this destination thing, because this is, you know, what I've been talking about so far, the way is the point, you know, that doesn't sound right, the way is the reason for the journey, the way, not the destination. Well, I suppose yes, just a couple of more secular examples. I think you do find that in any kind of reference to procedural knowledge, learning by doing, procedural knowledge, you also find it in words like course, don't you? I mean, I'm in education, so I teach courses. But a course is a journey, isn't it? I mean, that's the word, course. Course of true love. The course of true education never runs smooth. It's a course. And we talk about stages or steps as if there's steps being taken here. So yeah, just again, same thing really. With the end point not being, you know, it's not like you spend 3 or 4 years at university in order to hit that moment when you get handed your doctorate or get handed your degree or whatever it is. Every time you go in, each step is what you're actually doing. That's when you get the stuff. The thing at the end just confirms you're finished. So what am I talking about? Oh yeah, this last thing, yeah, the point, because some journeys do have ends, or at least seem to have ends, and there's something funny about that. Now, I'm thinking about treasure, for example, like a treasure hunt. That seems like the ideal journey with a point. You know what I mean? You search everywhere, or maybe you know exactly where it is, and you go to where the treasure is buried, and it's buried because there's an X on the map, isn't there? There's an X on the map that you go to, and X is such a perfect thing. You know, it's the intersection of two lines, so an X defines the point, a dimensionless point, really, if the lines are thin enough. It defines a point perfectly. You know what I mean? So that kind of treasure hunt, that going for pirate gold, is, hearty. That kind of thing is the perfect, for me at least, imagistically, the perfect move from the kind of vague wandering to a narrowing down to a very, very precise focus, where that spot is identified with unique precision, where the X is. Yeah. where the treasure is. And in that case, you know, the way is not the point. You know, you wouldn't come to where the treasure is and think, oh well, now I've got this spot, I won't bother digging it up, because it's been, the journey has been what's important. It's all that rambling around and all that ocean going, voyaging and stuff. That's what's really important. Don't need the treasure. No, you wouldn't do that. You know, the treasure is what you go there for. So that is absolutely a way to a destination. Not even sure I'd call it a way, actually, because you wouldn't call it a method, would you? It's just a means, not a way. It's a means. Ways and means. But yeah, it's got that precision to it, hasn't it? Like a homing in or a focusing in or getting something in the crosshairs, like targeting something. Yeah. It's also interesting that the X, like this, is the kiss, isn't it? Kiss. We put an X there to say that we're going to plant a kiss right on you, right now. This exact point in time and space is where our skin meets itself. Your skin and my skin meets itself at this precise point, exactly here, precisely now. But the way, you know, the method for arriving there is interesting, isn't it? I mean, in that case, it's halfway between being a pirate and being Jesus, or something, you know? Because you get to the kiss, but getting to the kiss is important. You know, moving your chair that little bit closer. Just invading that person's personal space a little bit, just to see if they're, how amenable they are to that kind of an invasion, until the personal space collapses to zero and you get the skin to skin thing going on, which is the kind of the point, kind of the dimensionless point. But what's weird there is, tell me if you think I'm talking crap, what's weird there I think is that, you know, the kiss, a lover's kiss, is the is it the precursor? Is it the precursor to what follows? You know, do we see the kiss on the map of someone's face, plant that kiss on the map of someone's face, and then think, yeah, I've marked it now, and I'm going to come back tomorrow when she's a bit more amenable. I'll come back next week when he's more amenable, and we'll dig it down past that kiss and see if we can find something else. Maybe we do. That might be sexual intimacy, or it might be some other kind of intimacy that we want to open up that X and see what letters lie beyond it, you know what I mean? X marks the spot. And of course that was the final point of Jesus, wasn't it? The point of the X, there he is, crucified at the exact precise point of the end of all sins or something, right at the scopus point, right where the whole ductus that we followed punctures that kind of punctures the final moment of that story, supposedly, with this big wooden kiss that he's nailed to. But of course it's not just a kiss, is it? Because you dig below the kiss and you find out what intimacies lie beyond that. Intimacies which are completely carnal and of the flesh, of the meat and potatoes, but also intimacies of the, I'm going to use the soul word, intimacies of the soul, by which I don't mean anything religious. Phoebe's got a baby rabbit. I can't let her take it home. Anyway, yeah, so that's something about the way there. Hope that hasn't been too much of a ramble. And I hope the noise of the building that's going on just over there hasn't been too irritating. We're just standing together, you and I, having rambled for 19 minutes and 15 seconds.